And next, we have another interesting story from a local company from just around the block. I think Matthias needs something that you might still hold on. That's the USB thing out of the. Great, thank you. Next up, we are going to discuss about the themes of open data. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've seen about data today has been through the acquisition of kind of customer or the corporate data, customer data that you receive from your own customers. But I think in this case, we are going to hear a story about how one company around here has been founded with the help of open data. And we're going to hear this with the mouth of a co-founder and a CMO of Blok, Olli Gunst. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you've had a nice day here. I've, for one, have learned a lot of stuff coming from more of a marketing world, not design. Yes. So my name is Olli Gunst. I'm the CMO and co-founder of Blok. And for those of you who don't know anything about Blok, Blok is a digital real estate agent. So we help people sell and buy apartments, and we do it with a fully digital service online. And today, actually, we had a little bit of a change here. So Rudy was supposed to come here, but he was unfortunately not able to come here. So actually, I'm going to talk about just 3 very concrete examples of how we use data and design at Blok to improve the customer experience. But before I get into that, I'd like to give you some context and background on why we are doing this. Why did we found Blok 2 years ago? We actually, none of the founders have any prior background in real estate, so this was a completely new domain for us. But we had experience. We had experience from being a customer using these services. So all of us, we had sold or bought apartments to traditional real estate agent. And what we saw as coming from technology background, we saw how kind of arcane tools and processes most of these traditional real estate agents were using. And we saw that, hey, there's a huge opportunity to create something great in this space. So actually, that's where it all started 2.5 years ago. And this is where we are today. This is our customer journey. So we've completely digitalized the whole customer journey from the valuation going all the way to offer making and now even the digital transaction. So this is actually something we introduced last week. So now you don't even need to go to the bank to close the deal anymore. But today I'm going to focus on a few concrete examples of how we've used data to improve the customer journey. So let's start with the first one, the valuator. So valuating your home. So this is actually something that turns out that people are actually more interested in knowing the price of their home than a real estate agent. This is actually data from Google back when we started Blok and showing the search volumes in red for prices of apartments and in blue real estate agency services. And this is quite logical and natural since the price of your apartment is probably one of the first, for most, the first questions they are thinking about when selling their apartment. Traditional way of doing this has been to invite the real estate agent home to you, sit around the coffee table, hear his or her sales pitch and valuation. But we thought that, hey, or actually how these traditional real estates do this is that they use something called the transaction price method where they, to evaluate your home. So actually they sift manually through tons of data about transaction prices of similar and comparable apartments in your neighborhood and get the valuation from there. And we thought that this is something that an algorithm could do much faster and probably even more accurately, since it can take into account data points that probably a human would not have enough bandwidth to process, so to say. So in early 2017, we launched our evaluator, and it's been super popular. But one of the probably the questions that we get the most, that can I trust this algorithm? And actually, we've done some research with the data. So we look at apartments that we've sold, and before selling them, we have evaluated them and see what the kind of margin of error is. And actually, it turns out that the margin of error is around, in Finland, it's around 5%. In Helsinki, where there's more data, it's 3.5%. That's pretty good. Some international studies showing that human valuations have a margin of error of around 7 to 14%. And yeah, 50,000 apartments have been valued so far. So in Finland, roughly 60,000 apartments change hands every year. So this is a quite significant amount. And also today, around 20% of all the apartments that come up on sale on the market are actually valued before they come on the market with our tool. So it's quite widely used. Then the next example of how Blok has been using data, this is actually my favorite example. It's the seller dashboard. So a lot of our customers prefer to communicate us with through chat online. And that's really nice for us, since we can then go through all of these chats and start categorizing and tagging the different discussions and seeing what recurring topics and themes pop up. And we actually did this a while back and identified that a lot of people are asking about the publishing schedule. So basically, they've signed up and we've taken maybe the photographs. Now they want to know when can they see the photograph, or when is the apartment going to be published, and so forth. And the great thing is that as we have created a digital service, it's highly standardized. So each selling process in this phase looks quite similar to one another. So we have clear tasks for our real estate agents of what to do next. So actually, they don't have to sit there and think and coordinate their work in this phase, but our system actually tells them that, hey, this should be prioritized, this should be done today. And we gather the data of knowing that what each work phase, how much on average it takes time. So actually, using this data that we already are collecting for internal purposes, we can actually display it to the customer. So now they can track the process as simply in a similar fashion than tracking a package coming to you from an online store, for example. And the result here was also very good. We were able to decrease with 50% the inquiries about the schedule. So our customer service has less burden from this topic, and they can focus on things that create more value. Then my last example is from the apartment page, which is basically the most important page in our service. Which is basically where you find all the pictures and details of the apartment. We recently redesigned the page, and here we also used data to understand better that what are people actually looking for and using the page for. So quite obviously here, images very, very high on the list. Then the virtual tour, where you can virtually walk through the apartment, and then descriptions, and then at the very end of page, we have this module where you can see similar apartments. So apartments with similar, in the similar area or size or price-wise similar. And this was also super popular, but many people didn't find it because it was at the very end of a very, very long page. And that was actually one of our biggest problems, that page was so long nobody went to the very end. So we actually solved this by ended up solving this by kind of putting this wall of information behind expandable headers, and so that more people kind of found this really useful feature at the end of the page. And this led also to a better result. People continued browsing our site more, and increased the chances of finding an apartment that fit their needs. All right, that's my 3 cases. Maybe to summarize, use data to figure out what to do first of all. So maybe how we use the chat data to determine what to solve, what to build is a good one here. Use data to build products and features that solve customer pains. So the Valuator is a great example here of not having to invite a stranger to your home to get the result immediately. And then use data to analyze how well it worked out, so you can know that you're doing right things or wrong things. That's all for today. Very compact presentation here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now or after the event.
Thanks, Olli. Thank you very much for coming. I think, yeah, good. Go ahead.
Currently, yeah, it's based on our. We don't have currently any at least large API connections. Perhaps.
Yeah, so the question was about the kind of openness of the data that Blok has been using this far. One sort of question which I think would be kind of appropriate kind of complement, because in previous presentation, particularly in Matias' presentation, he was kind of putting the qualitative data and quantitative data next to one another. But as you see, I see you as a very nice example of making this kind of like a second step in the digitalization of trying to kind of get rid of all the previously physical and difficult steps in this kind of process. But what is the kind of nature of the qualitative insights in terms of developing the service? I mean, a lot of the examples, maybe except for this chatbot or the chat discussions, do you kind of go and meet your customers intentionally in order to kind of get different kind of view? And because otherwise you have very little contact being fully digital.
Yeah, actually we have a ton of contact. So we are in contact daily with a lot of our customers, but it's just not physical in a physical environment. It's through the phone or through chats. But you're very right there that just looking at this quantitative data, you miss out a lot of stuff. So especially when we're thinking about new products, new services, here we do a lot of interviews and talking with people on the market, finding that is there some pain points that we're not solving currently with our current offering, and seeing there if we can find some new opportunities. A little bit similar to when we stumbled on this, our first service. It came through our own experiences and interviewing friends and family who had similar experiences, and found that way kind of an idea to build on.
And it seems, looking at the kind of financials for Blok over the past years, it seems that you've been hitting the nail in solving an important problem for people.
Yeah, so yeah, we've been growing and revenue-wise quite well, and it's exciting.
Thanks. Any other audience questions, responses? There's one, Lauri.
Yes, so actually we already have started to improve that. For example, through if you look at the marketing and the whole, what we did in the very beginning, it's evolved much from there. So there we kind of kind of showcase these apartments in a more in a higher quality way. We've also added kind of instructions for how to style your home better, and this way impact hopefully the selling price. But definitely this is something we're looking into, and we started with a very focused niche that we kind of wanted to dominate. But definitely as the company grows and evolves, there needs to be more. We need to be able to service a broader market.
I think this question, which started about what can you do in order to kind of, or at least how I would like to see this, is that what sort of opportunities do you have to develop the service so it actually becomes much more than just a digital version of the existing process. And I think this is kind of important way of seeing the evolution of digitalization. So you actually kind of step into the kind of final stage where you try to kind of intentionally get rid of all the existing processes as well as far as you can, and kind of create additional value based on what you've already built, and this kind of being digitally native, so to speak. Okay, I think it's time to give one more big hand to Olli. Thanks for coming.